Yeah, range anxiety is very real.
Yeah, I have enough anxiety. I don't need that. This is Basic AF, a podcast that is mostly about tech, but not always.
Mostly. No, it could be about Thanksgiving dinner and tryptophan dreams or something like that.
And we may be a little hallucinatory still. I don't know. I don't even know if that's a word, but it sounded good. So we're off to our usual great start. I'm Tom Anderson, joined as always by Jeff Battersby. Hello, Jeff. Good to see you again.
Good morning, Tom. Still on the West Coast in the basement. And we've got a guest.
We do.
An unexpected guest, but excited to have my brother, the next one out of the, well, I won't say anything,
womb.
Out the chute, out the womb. After me, this is my brother, Greg Battersby. Greg, welcome.
Thank you. Pleasure to be with you guys.
Yeah, Greg, thank you for joining us today.
Absolutely.
My pleasure. This is not the hip hop brother. That's a little going to come a little later on. We're going to figure that one out. But my brother Greg is a Subaru guy and just got a new Solterra, actually brand new. Still has the paper plates on it.
Yep.
And so we're going to talk a little bit about the Solterra, and we're also going to talk about his trip from Seal Beach in the LA area all the way up to the San Francisco Bay Area. And what a Subi adventure that was.
Ooh, what a sweet tie-in.
Yeah. There you go. Hey, can you sponsor the podcast?
Yeah. $0 ad buy. I could do that.
Yeah.
So, Greg, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself first, other than being my brother, which, was,
That's the most
that's a great accomplishment.
Notorious thing about me. Yeah. So I'm Greg. I'm Jeff's younger brother by 4 years. I live in Seal Beach in Orange County, California, and I've been living there for about 12 years. I work for a startup in the electrification of transportation space, but specifically for the vehicles, the trucks that will replace diesel in California. California has some pretty aggressive zero emissions policies, specifically at the ports and intermodal rail yards. And I work for a company called Watt EV, and we're building the infrastructure to charge the new vehicles that will replace the diesel drayage and intermodal trucks. So I am not unfamiliar with electrification and battery electric vehicles, but I don't want to hold myself out there as an engineer. I'm a sales guy. So, don't ask me a lot of physics questions. I will not do well.
Cool. Excellent. And you've been working for Watt EV for
about a year and a half.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. I should know that as his brother, and I do, but I had to ask the question, so we told our 5 listeners what it is.
Well, we still like to be accurate.
So. Yeah, the accuracy is a good thing.
Right.
Cool.
Good.
So you've been doing that for a while. You got a master's in logistics, right?
I have a master's in business and but a focus on sustainability.
Okay. See, I don't know things about my brother.
Yeah. And and then I've been working in the transportation industry since I finished grad school. I worked at UPS and then C.H. Robinson. And I've always been interested in sustainability, and this opportunity came along to kind of do the intersection of both. And I've been there for about a year and a half.
Very cool. And the other thing is you're a Subi guy.
I am a huge Subi guy. I'm a mountain guy, which, we were kind of raised that way, spending time in the Sierra Nevada in California. And I've been a skier for a long time. Being in Southern California, I do a lot of driving into the Eastern Sierra, which is about a 6-hour drive in a gas car.
Yep.
Yeah, not a 6-hour drive in an electric car. I use Subarus for what they're intended for, kind of adventure vehicles. Love the brand. Have had probably 4, starting with an Outback, I think back in 2010, maybe. That was my first Subaru. cross treks, and then I leased them, or the most recent relationship with Subaru has been with leased vehicles. So the last time I went into my favorite dealership down in Southern California, I don't know if I should drop the name, maybe not.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, it's Frank Subaru in Irvine, California. Very great dealership. Love the people. But this time around, I said, hey, man, I'm going to give an electric Subaru a shot. And it's a beautiful looking car, by the way. I don't know if you guys have seen the Solterra.
I have, because it's parked in front of the house.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. But no, I mean, one of the great things about re-upping a lease every 3 years is that you get all the latest technology and everything too, which is, constantly evolving. And I mean, you guys could talk tech on vehicles, forever. But this vehicle has a ton of bells and whistles. Very, very fun from that perspective. But this last, I guess it was Tuesday, I started on my first long journey to come up to the Bay Area from my home in Seal Beach for Thanksgiving. And I anticipated that it was going to, it's normally, I would say, a 6-hour drive without traffic. So I anticipated that it was probably going to be, at most 8 or 9. But I was sadly mistaken. This was a grueling horseback like I mean, brutal.
We'll talk about that in a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about how the vehicle drives.
Sure.
How's this? So you're in a Solterra. You're in the touring model, which we'll talk about in a minute. Yeah. But tell us a little bit about like the driving experience of this vehicle.
It's by far the fastest Subaru I've ever owned. I know, Tom, you've had WRXs. Mm-hmm. I don't know how it compares to that. I've never driven one of those. So it's really zippy. The cabin is a little tight for me. I think I have kind of a longer torso maybe and shorter legs. So it's tough for me to get into the cabin. Otherwise, though, really responsive, obviously really quiet because it's an EV. The technology is pretty intuitive. So I'm happy with that. Overall, like really comfortable. Doesn't drive like a Subaru. It's different, Huh. It's. I mean, I think we talked about this, Tom. It's really a Toyota,
right?
Body. So, and it kind of feels like that. It's got a few. There are a few different modifications that they made on the Toyota XBiz. I think it's called the Toyota model.
Is that the platform or XBiz is a model? Okay.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
That's all right. I don't.
Word. Yeah.
I'm just throwing words around.
Yeah. No. So I mean, I think the XBiz is available in dual motor, but the Subaru comes standard with that, and I think that's how they kind of stuck to their, DNA. They wanted an all-wheel drive electric car, so Toyota worked with them on that to make this Solterra. And from what I understand, it does really well in the snow. The way that I see it after having this driving experience is that it's probably a great car if you live in the mountains. Like if you're driving, let's say even 50 miles to a ski resort, or to the hiking trails that you like, be awesome, be great for that. But for me, as a Southern California resident who drives to the mountains frequently, I need to have a conversation with Subaru about this vehicle.
And so the touring trim, that's the top of the line trim, right?
Yeah.
That's all the bells and whistles and everything. Does it have the touchscreen infotainment, like the 11.7 inch or however big that thing is?
I think it does. I mean, I think Jeff's going to give it a drive.
Yeah, I'm gonna before he takes off today. I'm gonna give it a drive. I mean, it looks. I will say, having never seen one, so other than seeing it on the Subaru website, and I have had Subis. My son, as I said, has my old one. I'm driving a BMW right now, but
that's that podcast money.
Yeah. We're making so much money. Let me just point out that I am driving the entry level BMW.
Still don't big time us, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think they cost about the same. I'm just saying.
Probably.
my BMW and your Subarus are pretty much the same price. So
Especially this one.
let's not shame me for driving
Yeah.
an expensive car. But it's super sharp looking on the outside. It really is. You got a dual tone one. It's like a dark blue with black, like black accent trim.
Yeah.
I like the picture you sent over. I thought it looked nice.
Yeah, it's a great looking car. I didn't realize that it seemed like it was smaller for you on the inside. You know, I fit into all cars. I'm a small dude.
Yeah,
You're like an F1 driver.
Yeah, right. I could be
a horse jockey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's you know, I'm looking forward to driving it this afternoon. I actually have driven. My sister-in-law has an e-Golf. This is my other brothers, and I drove that. I'm still in the Bay Area. I'll be in the Bay Area through next Saturday. I'm leaving late next Saturday. As we record this, it's Saturday morning, and you know it'll be when you get this on Monday. You know, I'm leaving California shortly after that. But one thing I will say for electric cars is they are zippy as heck. Like you step on the gas and those things bite. And that e-Golf is e-Golf. Golf.
Yeah.
That e-Golf is something pretty slick. So I'm interested to see how this one drives. And the fact that this is all-wheel drive is pretty cool. But it looks phenomenal.
Yeah.
The vehicle really, really is sharp. It has the kind of an Outback look and feel. Sorry, not an Outback. Oh my God.
Crosstrek.
Is it? No, it's a little smaller than a Forester. It's like Crosstrek, somewhere between an Impreza and a Crosstrek.
It doesn't look like a Subaru.
Yeah, it's.
But most electric vehicles don't look like. You know what I mean? They're a little more sleek and kind of.
And it's interesting that you say it's based on the Toyota. I was thinking that I'm looking at the possibility. I'm going to go test drive when I get back a Corolla hybrid. That's supposed to be pretty good. And it does, now that you say that it's based on the Toyota, it kind of has that look to it. So it might be in that same family of vehicles. But it's really slick. It has some wings on the back. It must be for, aerodynamics.
If you're looking at the Corolla, you should totally get I think it's the GR6. They got a little hot hatch.
What's that?
It just screams. Like,
is it really?
It's not electric.
A hybrid?
Oh, no, it's a total ass ripper. Which is exactly what you need at this point in life.
Right, I'm sure.
Right.
Dude, I could barely get out of my BMW at this point in time. So if you put me into some little race car, it's going to take me like 20 minutes after soccer to extricate myself from the car.
Yeah. So Toyota and Subaru are partners, right? So Toyota's got some investment in Subaru through the Fuji Heavy Industries side of things. And so a lot of the design stuff, for better or worse, like some of the hardcore Subaru enthusiasts are lamenting kind of some of the design decisions of late.
Is that right?
They're like, looks like a Toyota. Good. Because Subaru's got a bit of a history of making quirky looking cars. Right. And
Brat.
The Brat. Yeah. And like the older Foresters were more boxy and they were kind of funny looking. And even back into the 80s with some of the cars they had then. Heck, even that WRX that I had in 2002, the design language on that, like people either loved or hated it when it came out because that's referred to as the bug eye because it's got these big round headlights and then these super big fog lights underneath. I loved it, but it was very, I won't say controversial, but it was opinionated.
Distinct.
Yeah, you either liked it or you didn't. But now it's looked like it's one of the classics. But and so they were saying some of the same things like with the new Forester that came out. Although people were saying the front end of that actually looks more like a Ford Explorer, and it does. But they make these things and people complain, and then you kind of get used to it and you don't really care. Like when they did the most recent WRX, there were a lot of complaints with the amount of plastic they put on the back end. To the cladding, and people were like, "Oh, it looks like a Civic." which wasn't necessarily a lie. But now that I've seen them and they're more around and you've had a little more time to get used to it, I actually kind of like it now. I didn't as much at first, but so,
yeah.
But
this,
go ahead.
Yeah, if you don't mind, I just want to share a tiny bit more about what I think the issues are with the Solterra from my driving experience. The range on the battery capacity on the Solterra Touring is 72.8 kilowatt hours. So, call that 73 kilowatt hours. And typically you get between 2 and 3 miles per kilowatt hour. My experience driving it up here, I don't know if I even mentioned this, but it took me 13 hours to get from Orange County to the Bay Area.
Now that's a Subi adventure.
Yeah.
One I don't want.
So, I mean, that was, it turned a 6-hour trip into double that, right? Some of that is attributable to traffic, but really the longest trip I've ever taken in an ICE vehicle, a gas vehicle, is, 7, maybe 8 hours with really bad traffic. So there's that. There's the limited.
And so is most of that delay charging related?
Yes, that's the other thing I was going to say. So the Solterra for some reason is tuned to charge more slowly, and apparently that was a decision that Subaru made to preserve battery life.
Right.
So yeah. So this thing, I mean, it's got a tiny little hose, let's say, to fill it. Yeah. All right. You can do whatever you want with that metaphor. Yeah. So, I mean, when you're sitting there, you're spending an hour to charge it from 20% to mid 80s, let's say. And yeah, brutal. And you better make good decisions about, you really got to tune it, like make sure it's in eco mode. Make sure you're not, using the seat heater. Well, I guess if you put it in eco mode, that kind of balances all that stuff out. But I learned some things on this trip that I'm going to apply on the way back, and we'll see. We'll see what happens on the way back. But
yeah, I'd be curious to see how much of an impact those adjustments would make.
Did you?
I'll share that with you.
Did you leave with a full charge when you left? When you left LA, were you 100%?
No, I was at like 86%.
Okay. So you're starting already with a.
It's not practical to charge vehicles to 100% when you're driving them, man. I mean, that's true with trucks too. You don't charge them to 100%. You charge them to 80%.
Right, which is what I'm charging my phone to these days, by the way.
Yeah, but you got to balance between the time that you spend charging, because it doesn't charge like in a linear fashion. The amount of time that it takes to charge the last 20% is way different.
That's what I was wondering about.
First 80.
Like it.
Yeah, you're going to spend
faster, and then once you get to that 80, that last bit, it really kind of slows down.
Yeah, and this is already slow. So I think this vehicle is really not. It's not a good touring vehicle because driving to the Bay Area or driving to the mountains. In my case, you're going to be stopping. Given the range, right? It's only going to get at most. Let's see, we said 73, so double that or 2.5 that in terms of miles because of that.
So what, 180?
Yeah. And then you're stopping every 180 miles.
For an hour.
For an hour. Oh. And if you're climbing or the temperature is low,
right.
The performance varies. And, you're talking about getting, an hour, 100 miles worth of drive and then spending an hour charging. Come on, man.
Yeah. And that's my biggest hesitation with an EV is that. Like if I had it, because one of the things I was considering was, okay, if I got one, it would be like a nice commuter car because I drive, it's a 10-minute commute to work. We've actually got chargers and our parking garage is there. I could top off there if I wanted to. But the range doesn't really come into play, right? So I'm not, okay, well, if I'm going to say, when my in-laws were in Connecticut, if I were going up there, it'd be a similar thing, right? That was a 6.5, 7-hour trip, 400 miles door to door. So that would be at least 2 charges with that one.
Yeah.
And I am just not willing to sit for an hour to charge up when I can pump gas for $5, run into the convenience store and pick up a bottle of tea or something and be back on the road in 15 or 20 minutes.
Yeah. it's kind of interesting, like the charging culture, if you will. When I'm driving up there, you're with a couple other people in these lonely parking lots, like after dark, just sitting there, like waiting for your vehicle to charge up. I think technology is going to evolve. Batteries are obviously going to get bigger, and maybe, maintain a lighter weight. And then charging capacity, the speed of charging is going to change. Right now, the technology is CCS. And I know that what's coming is something called megawatt charging. Mm-hmm. And I don't know how it'll apply in passenger vehicles, but with trucks right now, to charge the equivalent of a diesel truck takes about an hour and a half to get up to 80%, let's say. But with MCS, megawatt charging, that's gonna come down to like 30 minutes. So the big pipe, it'll load up quickly. It's going to be a huge strain on the grid, but I imagine that kind of technology will come to electric cars as well, right?
Well, and I think here's a difference, and you can tell me if I'm wrong. This is my understanding of the company that you're working for now is you would have basically stations going all the way up, and rather than waiting for the charge, aren't they dropping off one cab, picking up another one, letting the one cab charge, and the other one takes off to...
Yeah, that was a concept that we had in the beginning that we called slip seating. So it's supposed to be kind of like a Pony Express, but you would take your cab, hook up a trailer to it, pull into a Watt EV charging station that's like 100 miles from the one where you charged or left from, and then just swap out the cab and take it further. That proved to be a bit of a challenge because these vehicles are $500,000 a piece. So you gotta have $1 million worth of assets to move.
One truck up the.
Yeah. So we're figuring that out. And again, MCS charging is going to come to the Class 8 vehicles. Probably in the next 3 or 4 years. Policy in California, especially, but some other states, is way more aggressive than the technology. Mm-hmm. And so that's kind of a balancing act right now, especially with the trucking community. So
anyway. When those new standards drop in, so say the MCS, the megawatt chargers, so say that does work its way down to like the consumer grade, regular vehicles. What do they have to do with the charging stations? Any idea? Like, are those compatible? Is it just you just throw more juice to it, or do they have to put in brand new charging stations, or just the connector, or any idea how that would work?
That's a great question. And actually, Watt EV is really smart about that. We're primarily an electrical engineering company, a lot smarter guys than me and the other guys on the sales team. And we have designed our charging stations to pivot to MCS. So we're anticipating that change. Some of our competitors, I don't know that they're doing that. It'd be kind of silly if they weren't. But yeah, once that happens, in our case, we will be able to switch over. So the dispensers will not. We won't have to swap out the dispensers, just the cables, and the charging mechanisms looks a little different.
Okay, so like a USB-A to USB-C type. To bring the tech back into it.
Right back to the. Talk about the iPhone now.
No, but it might be interesting for you guys if you want to explore this EV stuff further on your podcast. I could introduce you to one of our engineers and get them on. That might be an interesting conversation.
That'd be fun
if you're in.
Yeah, we'd be into something like that. Definitely. Yep. We're mostly tech.
Well, I think that's a nice. It's a different tech angle. It's not Apple, but I think it's interesting though, because it's something that there's a movement towards. And Jeff, you and I have talked about this a little bit, that I feel like it's a little too aggressive. And I get the end goal, but I think that, I think it's a long play. I think a smarter play is the hybrids to kind of bridge that gap between internal combustion to electric, if that's what's next, on a larger scale. Because I think right now it's about 10% of new car sales were electric last quarter. Companies, I read this morning, doing a little background stuff, I saw Ford loses $36,000 per electric vehicle they sell.
36,000?
36,000.
That's
and I was like, well, that doesn't seem sustainable.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that's, because it's early and they're still throwing a bunch of money into changing manufacturing lines and research and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
They didn't get into the details of that in the article, but I think it'd be an interesting discussion to have.
Yeah, and here's the kind of interesting thing too. Now that you point out hybrids, Subaru doesn't make a hybrid presently.
They did make a Crosstrek hybrid, which was popular, but from what I understand, they're not making that anymore. I don't know what you've heard on that.
Yeah, they dropped that, and then the Forester is going to be the next hybrid that they do, the 2025.
And I've got my BMW lease is up, and I'm looking at that. Well, I have been. I've been looking at the Kia Sportage, which is slick vehicle.
I've heard good things about Kia.
Really great. Like I drove it, and it drives pretty much as well as my BMW. Hard to get your hands on them. I couldn't. I was having a hard time even test driving that vehicle. But it's Edmunds. It's their top rated. It's their top rated vehicle in that space right now. What's interesting is, I drive a BMW X1. Like I said, it's the bottom of the barrel BMW, which is all I need. I really just, I don't need to be driving whatever the $125,000 vehicle is that they sell. You buy a house, a small house, or a car. But what continues to be interesting too is they are upping their gas mileage game. Doesn't do anything for carbon emissions, as far as that goes in terms of, what you can get with a hybrid, especially driving around town, like going to be all electric. But my current BMW, if I put it in eco mode, which is what I drive in most of the time, gets in the 30s, which is better than my Impreza was getting.
That's good.
Yeah. My Impreza, the current one, the current X1, it is, again, in eco mode. If you're driving it, it's mid to high 30s that it'll get on the highway. And actually, I was looking at Consumer Reports. I think they got up to like 41 miles to the gallon in eco mode on the highway, just straight up highway driving. But I think I am going to end up getting a BMW this round. But hybrid is really the way I think that makes the most sense. Yeah, because it seems like everybody's got a one-off that they've got to do. Most of my driving is under 30 something, 40 something miles, in a single run, until it's not. I have to drive, down to see Tom's weight room. So
a workout.
Yeah, I could go down to Tom's for a workout, and so the hybrid still seems like smart technology. Maybe continuing to push the more towards battery. So most hybrids now go about 30-35 miles on battery, and then it rolls over to gas. Be interesting to see if they can find a way to make it so it's 100 miles, like what your Solterra does, and then has a little gas to get you over the hump. It's just probably more expensive technology, more complicated than straight up electric. But
I think the EPA estimate on the Crosstrek hybrid was 100 miles per gallon. Double check that. But I think it was up there.
Oh, my daughter.
I mean, the EPA estimates are what they are. Like that, right? Obviously, that's not accurate, but it's pretty close.
Actually, both of my daughters have hybrid vehicles right now. But my one daughter got a Hyundai Sonata that gets killer mileage. That hybrid is excellent. The other daughter and her husband have. They have Prius, not the brand new Prius that just came out, but the one right before it. And that was a plug-in hybrid, which they don't use the plug-in that often. There is a free charging station in town that they can go to, but it's down the street. You got to drive down the street, plug into it. It doesn't make a lot of sense, but it really is they boboth get really good gas mileage in those vehicles.
Yeah. And I think we'll see Subaru do some more hybrids. I mean, I don't think that they would have done the Forester as a hybrid if there weren't more coming in. I know Toyota's big on hybrids. Like their CEO in Japan is like, the EV companies are seeing the reality that straight EV is a problem. It's difficult. And so I think they're kind of taking that, okay, well, this kind of hedges our bet till we really figure out what that's going to look like 5-10 years later.
I hope they remember that when I take my vehicle in and try to get into another car. Maybe I'll quote the CEO.
Yeah. Did Greg, when you were going to the charging stations, did you run into any that were non-functioning?
Yeah, my favorite so far is Electrify America. Mm-hmm. I really like their setup. Most of them are CCS, but yeah, occasionally you run into some that aren't working. But usually there are charging ports available that are. I haven't had to wait too long.
Okay.
But I'm timing my trip back. By the way, I was originally planning to go home tomorrow, Sunday, but everybody's going to be going home tomorrow, Sunday, and I don't want to risk traffic and then competition for chargers on the way home. So I got to leave today.
Yeah. And how long? Again, I think you mentioned it, but how long have you had this car?
I've had it about 2 months.
Okay.
Yeah, just got it. So, but I'll report back to you guys, of course.
No, yeah, definitely be interested in hearing that. And you said you learned some things coming up from LA that are gonna drive, what it is. No pun intended. Drive what it is that you do on your way home. So you made a choice to drive the 101 up, which is a little longer trip no matter what anyway.
True. About 40 minutes longer.
Okay. And what was the rationale behind driving the 101?
Yeah, well, I mean, for people who've driven in California, the Highway 5 is one of the options, north and south. And that's typically, that goes through cow towns, and it's very rural in a lot of places.
Mostly flat?
Yeah, mostly flat. 101 is pretty flat too. The rationale behind deciding to go that route was that I wanted to stop in nice places to charge.
Right.
And and the 101 gives you more opportunity to do that. This time I'm going to take the 5, and we'll see. But the 5 includes more hills. You have the Grapevine before you get into LA. Yeah. So that's going to be an interesting challenge. So we'll see. And the colder weather too. When you get up over the Grapevine, they get snow. I mean, we're not going to get it today when I drive, but it gets colder up there. So we'll see. Yeah.
Does Subaru have in the infotainment, you can just tap and it'll show you where the charging stations are? Does it give you or do you have to use an app?
It's got a cool interface where you just say, "Hey Subaru," and the AI or whatever it is talks to you. And you can ask it, "Where's the nearest charging station?" Cool. And it will tell you. That's another thing is that software for planning trips on EVs, you were going to look at Apple.
Yeah. Maps. And I should have done that before the show. We could have talked about that too, but
there's a huge need for that though. Right? Software that will help you plan a trip based on the actual mileage that you're getting.
I think that's in Maps, but I don't know
I think it is,
but I don't know that it's integrated to what you were just saying there, Greg, where it's okay, based off of your current environmentals and the way that you're driving, you're going to need to charge in 42 minutes or whatever it is.
Yeah, that would be good because it's kind of flying blind, I mean, there's Plug Share, which I've downloaded, but I can't really figure out how to work that. And like I said, I like Electrify America, so I typically just ask, where's the nearest Electrify America charger? And I haven't had too much problem with them in terms of, dispensers being down.
So it sounds to me, Jeff, Hey Subaru works better than Hey Siri does.
Yeah, Hey Subaru is kind of cool.
So, yeah, good job, Apple.
Well, we've only had 15 years to work on Hey Siri or whatever it is.
They say
whenever they bought Siri,
iOS 18 is bringing big changes. We'll see.
That's what I hear. Next best thing.
Right.
I'm looking in the Maps apps right now to see if there is charging station stuff. And I'm not seeing anything directly in there other than maybe saying, "Hey, where's the next charging location?"
Yeah, I think it'll do that.
And I will tell you one thing about even finding food in Siri or something like that. It often finds something where you have to go up to this exit, hook a U, go back 2 exits, and there's the nearest In-N-Out Burgers.
I noticed that. I noticed that on my trip up too. Sometimes I would ask, "Where's the nearest Electrify America charger?" and it'd be 10 miles backwards
behind you.
Yeah, forget it. It doesn't make any sense.
I did a quick search for charging stations in Maps, and in my area, it found 25, but some of them are a little ways away. But in the general vicinity, it looks like I've got, I don't know, 6, 7. Electrify America is right up the street, apparently. So
they're in Virginia.
Yeah.
Their HQ is in Virginia. Actually, funny story about that. When they just recently hired their newest CEO, a guy named Robert Barossa, and I happened to go to grad school with him. And he, as you know, before taking the helm, drove all the way from California to Virginia just using Electrify America chargers, and they filmed it.
Oh, cool!
The whole way, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure there was some editing.
Good way to get to know the product.
I was going to say, did it take him 13 hours?
Oh, it took him way longer than that. Yeah, that
was the first leg.
The first leg. Oh man. Well, Tom, I think we're coming to the end. And Greg, man, thanks so much.
Dude, my pleasure.
Really appreciate having you on this morning.
Yeah, this was fun, and I think it's good information, because I think, you know, people are looking at these as possible options, and that anxiety around the range, the mileage range, when you have to charge up is a thing, and then that expectations around it, like, well, how long is it going to take to charge? And it's going to take a while. So,
yeah, range anxiety is very real.
Yeah. Yeah, I have enough anxiety. I don't need that.
They should give you a prescription for Xanax.
Right. With every electric vehicle.
Complimentary 12-month subscription. Yeah, great. Cool. Pills as a service. That's just what we need.
Pills as a service.
Jesus.
The vehicle dispenses a Xanax.
Right. At the charging station, here you go. Boop. Right.
Yeah, but Greg, seriously though, thank you so much for coming on. This was fun, and
pleasure. Nice meeting you.
We appreciate it. You too. Have a safe trip back. Hopefully a little shorter.
I'll let you know.
Yeah,
sounds good.
We'll get a little update. So as usual, you can get us at feedback@basicafshow.com. Our show artwork is by Randall Martin Design. The sound, the music that you hear, we've added him last week. It comes from Psychokinetics, Celsius 7. Who is my other brother. So yeah, we're abusing all the Battersby family. Gonna get my sister on next for her book, and then we'll have done the whole.
This is easy booking, though.
Yeah, right. And everybody's interested. Tom, you have a newsletter?
I do, yes. TomFAnderson.com. Go there. You'll just hit the subscribe button.
I'm totally off Twitter. You can find me at Reyes Point on Threads. I'm actually finding that I like Threads.
It's not bad.
I'm ashamed to say that I'm.
But don't worry. Just as soon as you really get into it, Jeff, they'll start throwing in the ads and all the stupid stuff that we hate on Facebook and Instagram. So
it'll be safe. And at that point in time, I'll drop everything else. But I have kicked Twitter. Yes, Mr. Musk, other electric car guy. I refuse to call it that other name that you've given it. Anyway, that's because I'm just a jerk. Tom, it's good to see you, man.
You too. As always. Greg, thanks again.
Cheers.
All right. And
happy holidays.
Yeah, you as well. And again, safe travels. And for everyone listening, thanks again for being here. We do greatly appreciate it. Tell your friends, share, like, comment, review, whatever it is. We do appreciate you helping spread the word. Hope you have a great rest of your day or rest of your night.
See ya.
Imperfections do prefer to leave